x, what do you try to do? Try to get, yep, and you try to get x by itself. So we're going to do that. So in order to get x squared by itself, what are we going to move? 81. So we're going to subtract 81 from both sides. X squared equals negative 81. Okay. If this was just a normal x, we would be done. But it's not a, I don't want to say a normal x, but it's not an x by itself. It has an x squared. So how do you get rid of something that's been squared? Who said it? What did you say? You're going to take the square root of both sides. Okay. The square root of x squared is x. Now, you have the square root of negative 81. Now, here is the one that has stumped my kids today. Because it's x squared, okay, I want you to know the first thing you're going to write is you're going to write a positive and a negative. Because an x squared always has two roots, because it's x squared. The square tells you how many answers it's going to have. It's going to have two. It's going to have a positive and a negative. Now, the square root of 81, we're going to simplify it, just like we did examples 1 and 2 and example 5. So that would break up into the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 81. Now, if you know the answer, you can just write it. But if you don't, let's just go through it like it wasn't a perfect square. So what is the square root of negative 1? I. So I'm going to put an I down here. Okay. What are two numbers you can multiply to get 81?
9 and 9.
Okay. What are two numbers you can multiply to get 9?
3.
Do we have a pair?
Yeah.
How many? Oh, sorry. How many pairs do we have?
2 of 3.
So I have this, so I have 3 times 3 times I. What is 3 times 3 times I? 9I. And that's our answer. So we have a positive 9I and we have a negative 9I, which means that if we replaced it and we multiplied them out, we would get negative 81 no matter what. So when you solve for an x squared, you're always going to have two answers because it's squared. So again, I just want to point out, you can write it as 9I comma negative 9I, or you can just write plus or minus, plus or negative. Okay. I'm hoping, let's see. So we have 5y squared plus 20 equals 0. So how many answers should we have? 2. You always know you're going to have 2 if there's a squared. If there was a 3, you guys, you would have 3 answers.
Are we going to do one like that?
Later. Okay, so how do we, what? It will be factoring, and we'll do those later this year. Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to subtract 20. Right now, we're only going to concentrate on quadratics, and that's the squared term. Okay, these cancel out. I'm left with 5y squared equals negative 20, and then I'm going to divide by 5. Y squared equals Are there any questions right now? Do you feel good about this right now? Okay. How do you get rid of a squared term? You take the square root of it. Remember what I said. As soon as you take the square root of the number, you're going to have a positive and you're going to have a negative. And this breaks up into negative 1 times negative 4. Can you take the square root of 4? Some of them you're going to know, you guys. If you, I'm sorry, square root of 4. I apologize. Can you take the square root of 4?
Yeah.
What is the square root of 4? 2. If you know it, you can write it. And what's the square root of -1?